How's it going? This is Fox back again for sound design tutorials. Another Serum tutorial today. I've been watching one or two videos on YouTube. I still like to do this just to see if there's any tips and tricks I can pick up. A lot of people doing growls with Serum lately, using pitch mod and some crazy LFO shapes to get some real nasty gritty sounds. So I've made my own updated version. This is my growl. This is a sound we're going to be going over today. This patch will be free in the link below. Yep, this is it. Lovely deep full growl. The main tool for sculpting this sound is this multi-filter. It's a high pass filter. You've got two peaks that you can set apart from each other. We've got a modulating coming together, giving us that vowely sort of your sound. Just say quickly, if you enjoy this or any of my videos, please subscribe. There's a box up here. So yeah, we're going to get down to it. So I'll switch to this scene. I'm going to go ahead and initialize this. There's a lot to go through, so if I'm a bit quick, you might have to bear with me. So yeah, first of all, the main oscillator, there's a spectral oscillator. You're going to go to one of Seamless's for a sound like this. This one is light metal. I'll give it 4 voices of unison. Detuned just a bit. Nothing spectacular at the minute. We're going to pitch this one down 1 octave. Start to get some real grit in it then. The other second oscillator is a spectral one again. Another one of Seamless's, and it's thin, thick. This one gets pitched down 2. Two voices of unison on this one. Detune around about 0.10. So it's quite static at the minute. Everything comes with all the modulation that we do. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the pitch modulation. This is done by this one here, LFO 3. You can use any one you want, but this is the LFO that I chose for this purpose. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and drag this to the coarse pitch of oscillator A and B. By default, it sets this bipolar, so it's going to go both ways. We don't want that. I'm going to go to the matrix section. Click on this box here, which makes it unipolar, which makes it only going to go one way, which is what we want for this sound. We need to set this to a half a bar rate. We need to BPM it, anchor it, and set this to an envelope, so it's just going to do one cycle. This is the shape we want to create. When you're doing this sort of things, you want to keep to these sort of faded grey lines because these are on beat. It makes it all sound better and in tune with itself. So this is the shape I made. Nothing too crazy. It's going to pitch it up, and it's going to come down slowly over time. Smoothing that curve out. So yeah, we need to pitch these down 3 semitones. 3.98. I had this one on as close as you can get it. This one was a little bit less, -3. And then we need to pitch these up both the same amount. I believe it was 24. I'm not too sure whether this is individual semitones. I don't think so. Otherwise it'd be going up 2 octaves, but so it's getting pitched up and then down. I had both the levels on full. So yeah, now we're going to start doing some modulation. This LFO 3, that's it. That's all that does. The main tool now was LFO 2. This one's quite a weird shape. Again, I kept it all on beat. So I will create this shape first, and then we'll start doing some modulation. Again, if you want it to be exact, you're going to have to copy this. But as I say, the patch is free to download in the description. So yeah, I use this for quite a few things, 6 different destinations. The first 2 is the bend. The modulation boxes for this. Didn't do it for the wavetable. No, I used an envelope for the wavetable. So yeah, I used it for the 2 these mod boxes for A and B. We haven't set nothing else up for that yet. But what I did for both of them is bend negative. This sort of pushes it all over one way. This is really good for these sort of growls. This is a little tip I picked up watching other people's videos. I didn't have it all the way around on full. About halfway from both. We need to set this to half a bar, BPM anchored and envelope mode again. This one is a bar actually. Still quite low at the minute, real gritty. We'll set up the modulation for the wavetable now. This is an envelope I use for this. I wanted a nice constant continual sweep through these envelopes. A good way to do that is have a nice long attack on an envelope. This one was around about 3 seconds. It's not going to get to the height of the attack over this 1 bar MIDI clip that I've got, but it was just going to give it a nice clean sweep through. So that's all we need to do. 3-second attack. Drag this, drop it to the wavetable. Not quite all the way around. Same for this wavetable, not quite to maximum. Probably bring it in a bit. Sounding good at the minute, 2.3 seconds. As I say, this crazy LFO2, this does a lot of other stuff now. We're going to bring in the filter now. So it was one of the multi-filters. It was the high pass 12. You really should check these out. There's all different peaks and stuff in there if you're looking to do some good modulation. Cut off, starting point for the cut off around 200 Hz. This is modulated by LFO2. If we drag it, drop it in just before 12 o'clock. Resonance we need to boost. That's giving us a peak. This is creating one of the vowely sort of edges. The drive boosts it even higher. Sounds pretty good on its own, but when you introduce this other frequency, another peak, push that starting position round to about 79%. We use that same LFO on this, but doing it the other way, so it's bringing the peaks together. About -23, something like that. And the cutoff for the first one was 21. You need to be quite exact with these if you're going to make it yourself. I'll show you in a minute. If you drift either way, it sounds massively different. If I move this to the right, it loses all of its character. All I did now was just crank the polyphony up, make sure it's got enough nodes that it needs. We're getting there. I didn't use any sub-oscillator. This was creating enough low harmonics and everything that I needed, just like this. So yeah, we're going to go to the effects section now. Just make sure you can see what we're doing. So yeah, quite a lot in the effects section. Again, if I'm rushing, you're going to have to slow it down to go over it, but I didn't want this to be too long. Pull the mix down for the hyper, mix up for the dimension around 12 o'clock. Sorry, didn't realise we were clipping. We use distortion as well. Anybody that knows me knows I love this diode distortion, diode 1. Pull the drive right down to 0. In the mix, we're going to modulate this with that same crazy LFO. Drag it, drop it on it, only a tiny amount. About 12. Let's pushing the modulation in and out with this LFO shape that we got. The next thing I use is chorus, all in this order. I didn't change the order that they come in as standard. I'm going to pull the chorus rate down to 0. Didn't use a second delay line. Depth, resonant, feedback, low pass filter, all as it comes as standard. Just bring the mix down to about 13%. Compression now, just to bring it all together. Threshold, ratio, attack, release. All I did was give it a bit of gain. That dulls the sound down actually, we'll do away with that compression. The last thing was an EQ. Right, this is what helped me this stand out to some of the other growls that I've heard. When you apply a lot of effects, you can really lose the power that those resonant peaks are doing with a filter. So I recreated those peaks again, slightly different frequencies with this EQ. And then I used a macro to be able to bring this in or out to give us the extra power if and when you want it. So the starting point for this peak was around 78 Hz, so a bit lower than the first one. The gain, we'll keep that where it is at the minute because we're going to modulate it with the macro in a moment. Keep the percent on 60. Both of these want to be on these peaks, so we're going to be creating 2 peaks. Frequency for this one's 1470, around that. Q pretty much dead center again, and the gain dead center. So that's having no effect to the all whatsoever, but if we introduce this macro, drag it, drop it to the gain of both, go into the matrix section again, make sure that it's just the arrow pointing one way, and the amount we want for this is pretty much full on both. I'm looking at the wrong bit, sorry. 22, I had this one on. Too much, you get some real resonant zinginess that you're not going to want. This one was on about 13. And then I use that LFO, that crazy LFO 2 to modulate the frequency, same as what we've got in the filter on the first page. So drag and drop the LFO to the frequency of both. This one negative, just after 12 o'clock. This one about 13. Turn that on and off so you can hear the difference that extra EQ's got. Really does have some extra depth and helps bring them frequencies out that we're pinpointing on this section. These 2 resonant peaks, after the effects have sort of done their work and thickened the sound up. So yeah, that's the sound done. Quite a lot to it. Once you've drew the LFO shapes in, it's just a matter of choosing what you want to modulate. And we're being really careful with the frequencies on this cutoff and this frequency. As I say, if you change these, goes from a growl to something quite inaudible. So yeah, I'll show you inside this track quickly. All I did is I bounced it, pitch this one down slightly. If I go to scene 1, sorry. So yeah, here inside Ableton, I bounced that down. This is the bounce version. It's got some effects on it. It's got a bit of some of the return sends on it, some extra EQing just to bring those frequencies out again, a bit of overdrive. This is a part that I sort of chopped up from that and stretched it out a bit. So yeah, I'll play it inside the track quick just so you can hear it. I'll play a bit of a build up to it. So there you have it, Skrillex style growl. It is quite a lot like some of the ones Skrillex used to make with Massive, but yeah, a lot more easier inside Serum now. You can really get a real depth and a real grittiness of sound with the extra effects. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching. As I say, make sure you subscribe and grab this patch for free in the description. Okay, cheers.